Just over 2 weeks left to the NHL regular season. Lots going on. So let's bring in our insider, Darren Dreger, to touch on some key topics right now. And Dregs, I don't think there's any bigger question mark right now than surrounding the Edmonton Oilers injury situation, specifically Connor McDavid. What's the latest on that front?
Well, we know that he's progressing. I think that the Edmonton Oilers, Gino, have been transparent on that front with all of their injured players, including their goaltender, Stu Skinner, and star defenseman, Mattias Ekholm. But if we zero in on the captain, the progress is good, but the Oilers are also being sensitive to their timeline and also very cautious in terms of making sure that he is healthy for the playoffs. Now, as Chris Knobloch, the head coach of the Oilers, has acknowledged, they do believe that Connor McDavid will be available before the start of the postseason. And I think he's at least another week away. So the expectation is that he should be able to come into the fray in the final week of the NHL regular season. Now, the news might be a little bit better with Skinner. I'm told that he's feeling better, which is a good sign for the Oilers and for their goaltending core. But he also is likely a week away as they observe a level of caution. And then with Mattias Ekholm, basically on the same timeline as Stu Skinner, I would expect that he's a week away from returning to the Oilers' blue line, maybe a little bit less than that.
Speaking of good teams with question marks right now, Winnipeg Jets fighting for first overall, the President's Trophy, and yet they've got some injury concerns as well, Dregs.
Yeah, but there might be a bit of a breather coming around the corner here for the Winnipeg Jets on that blue line. My understanding is that Neil Pionk is skating this week, or will skate this week, but that doesn't give them a real true sense of where he's at. Now, he's going to have to skate a couple of times to get a better level on what his development is in that regard. So they're not going to put a timeline on the return of Neil Pionk. And when you look at a couple of other pieces, I think of Gabe Vilardi, I think of Kapari as well, there's no real status update there other than to say, like other players around the league, that those two guys are a ways away. But in the meantime, the Winnipeg Jets continue to rack up wins. So any adds at this point from the injury front are going to be welcome and needed, but definitely a boost.
Hey, Dregs, while we were down at the general managers meetings in Florida a little while ago, there was some talk about the NHL's big plans for the Ovi Sellies. Now, Washington's at Boston tonight. Ovechkin 5 goals away with 9 games to go. What are we hearing from the NHL's front in terms of preparations?
Well, it's right in front of them now, right? I mean, they've been talking about this. They've been planning about this from a production perspective, I think, for several weeks, if not months, as it became a reality that Alex Ovechkin certainly was capable of breaking Wayne Gretzky's goal-scoring record. So what I'm told now is that NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman, Chief Content Officer Steve Mayer are likely going to join an NHL entourage when Ovechkin is 4 goals out. So if Ovi scores against the Boston Bruins tonight, being Tuesday night, then I think the head office of the National Hockey League will jump on board. Undoubtedly, Alex's family will be there. The ownership of the Washington Capitals will be part of the tour group. What we don't know is the official timeline of number 99, Wayne Gretzky. I mean, he's working on his own schedule. Undoubtedly, he will participate. But again, I'm being very real specific here when I say that Bettman and Mayer are expected to join the scheduling travels of the Washington Capitals when he's 4 goals out. But there's also production ads that go along with this as well. Again, from that 4-goal plateau moving forward. Additional cameras for all of the networks who are covering the Washington Capitals, etc. So there'll be a lot more fanfare and production, and some high-powered fans who are following Alex Ovechkin's push here of late.
Dregs, you better not score 5 tonight, or the NHL's not going to be happy. All right, let's look to the future. Chicago's top goalie prospects, Oliver Moore and Sam Rinso, made their NHL debuts on Sunday. Sounds like a few other recognizable NCAA players are about to do the same.
Yeah, some name players, no doubt about that. I'm looking at Ryan Leonard. Speaking of the Washington Capitals, Leonard is expected to make his debut tonight, and what an energy pop this could be for the Capitals, even though you look at the Washington Capitals and you wonder where they're going to fit this young man into the mix. But, you know, when you've got a high-profile, high prospect like Ryan Leonard, you just find a way, and that's exactly what the Caps are going to do. They've been anticipating this all season long. They made cap space, created cap space for this opportunity. So there'll be an injection there, no doubt about that. Jimmy Snuggerud, Minnesota Gophers, is joining the St. Louis Blues. As we know, he signed his entry-level contract on Friday, Gino. And it kind of a similar circumstance. I mean, the St. Louis Blues, to say the least, are on a heater right now, but they like the idea of adding a scoring pedigree player from college hockey into the mix. So expect him to play. And then I look at Gabe Perreault, who's now property of the New York Rangers, and the expectation is that he'll make his NHL debut on Wednesday.
Speaking of young up-and-comers, what about Habs goaltending prospect Jacob Fowler, a third-round draft pick back in 2023? Any word on him turning pro sooner rather than later?
A lot of buzz around Jacob Fowler, there is, but the update is a brief and a quick one here. It's simply that I expect Habs management, that's Kent Hughes, of course, the general manager of the Montreal Canadiens, to have a conversation with the advisor, with the group that represents Jacob Fowler. Keep in mind that if they want to throw him into the American League after signing the contract, then they got to wait for Laval, and there's no rush to do that, as Laval is out west as part of their American League schedule. So something is going to happen with Jacob Fowler and the Montreal Canadiens, but they've got a little bit of time to work with this week.
All right, lots going on. That's the early version of Insider Trading. The full version of IT is coming up later on the early edition of SportsCenter.